This week on For Crying Out Loud.
And then when did that become, I got SpongeBob money, bitch?
Well, in the world of basic cable, does that day ever come?
Probably, yes. When you're SpongeBob, it doesn't come that often.
Yeah.
But you kind of got the lottery ticket, man, the winning ticket.
Well, it's good to have something that's around for a little while. It gives you kind of a leg to stand on.
Are you part of the creators?
No.
So
I'm merely a session musician. I'm the bass player.
But don't you think like the writers it's really the writing of the show that makes it.
Are you trying to downgrade
Wow.
the show?
No.
Wow.
But here's the thing.
Pretty much anybody could play
you
that.
asked me to be on your podcast, and now I feel like you brought me in and you're insulting me.
That is
No,
pretty
you know
funny.
what? No, the thing is
This
that
interview's over, Lynette. Bye-bye.
Check out an all-new episode of For Crying Out Loud this Friday, or go to cryingoutloudshow.com, only from Corolla Digital. This is Corolla Digital.
Hello, my little waffle fries. It's me, Allison. Before the show officially starts, a few words. I believe we have an iTunes comment of the week.
Allison wants your iTunes comments. Allison wants them, yes she does. Please leave her some iTunes comments and don't forget to click 5 stars.
All right, our iTunes comment of the week this week comes from Ducati Lou 81, and it is titled, I'm in my closet. Every time I'm listening to Allison's podcast and someone asks me what I'm listening to, I whisper, Allison. I admit, it's my guilty pleasure. I love the show and every single guest that's been on it, which is strange because I always judge. Yes, I'm a judger, so please don't judge me. Still, I will most likely deny all this when anybody asks me what's my podcast of choice. I'll work the nerve up. I'll stop whispering Allison and eventually write reviews, such as this one in broad daylight and not while hunched over in my tiny closet. Nobody can see me. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Check it out!
Well, thank you, Lou. I appreciate that you're, being public about it by leaving this comment, which, by the way, if you guys want your comment to be considered for iTunes Comment of the Week, leave a comment on iTunes and click 5 stars. But this whole thing has made me wonder, am I some kind of secret guilty pleasure, the kind of thing that people don't feel that they can proudly tell everyone about, and instead they're just like some crappy pop song where you're like, oh, wow, here I am rocking out to Kelly Clarkson or Katy Perry. Those are a couple of my guilty pleasures. I want to be your Silver Sun pickups or some other thing that you feel good and even hipsterish about liking. Gary, what's going on? Am I lame?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
I don't think it's a guilty pleasure.
Do you proudly tell people you work on this show?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have you gotten your Alison Rosen is your new best friend logo tattoo on your person yet?
No, but I have a limited edition t-shirt that I wear from time to time.
That's right. I enjoyed seeing you wear that very shirt when we had a go-to-meeting, which takes me right into the fact that I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite sponsors, Go-to-Meeting from Citrix with HD Faces. Let's say you need to meet with some coworkers. Let's say you don't want to haul your buns into the office, which, if you're me, is pretty much all the time. You just meet with them with GoToMeeting. You can use your webcam. You can do this on your laptop, on your desktop, on your iPad. You can call in on your iPhone. And then you can meet face-to-face. You can see each other with HD quality, and you can get all your work done without actually having to be in the same place, which is the way of the future, and it's super convenient, and you don't have to smell your coworkers. Recently, Gary was sick. He's better now, though, which I'm happy about. But while he was sick, we just GoToMeetinged it up. We met on GoToMeeting, and then I didn't have to breathe in his phlegmy germs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, GoToMeeting has the built-in screen sharing, and you can give control of your screen over to somebody else. So, you can share your screen, and then their mouse becomes your mouse, so they can change stuff. And I was sick, and I I did not want to give it to anybody, but we absolutely had to do some work on the show, and we jumped on GoToMeeting, and I actually hosted it from my iPad, which is a new feature. It used to be you could only join meetings from your iPad, but I started it up from my iPad, and then I showed you some pictures that we had, and we collaborated. It was great, and GoToMeeting is just awesome. I mean, it works. It is a solid product, and it's a workhorse.
Mm-hmm. It is powerfully simple. Start hosting your own face-to-face online meetings today with GoToMeeting. My listeners, that's you guys, can try it free for 30 days. Don't wait for this special offer. Visit gotomeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code Allison. Be sure to use the promo code Allison. As I've said before, whenever I leave a GoToMeeting and go back to just emailing my coworkers and friends, I feel kind of lonely. And then I think, how empty my life has become. But thank God for this technology, which is making it more simple. Okay, also, I would like to tell you guys about scorebig.com. This is like Priceline for sporting event tickets, concert tickets, music tickets, any sort of thing where you want to buy tickets. You know that you know how you have been in a situation where you're like, oh, I really want to go to that, whatever, fill in the blank, game, let's say. And then you find out it's sold out and you're thinking, but I just know there's some seats there and I just know I'm being lied to. I mean, you're not being lied to when they say sold out because on their end it is sold out, but there are tickets available. That's why you need to go to scorebig.com because you can get those tickets and there's not going to be all sorts of crazy service charges tacked on. There's not going to be upselling. You set the price. You say, this is how much I want to pay. And then if they can do it, you will get the tickets for exactly how much you say. Yes, Gary?
When was the last time you went to a sold out thing at the bowl or in my case, a sporting event that is sold out and sold out, signs everywhere, and then you sit down and the 4 seats next to you sit empty the entire goddamn show
it's
or
everything.
game? Every time.
I was actually just at a sold out event last night. I was performing, and there was a whole row in the back.
Right. It's ridiculous. And it's just, these guys have figured out that although everyone says sold out, that's because, some corporation bought season tickets or whatever the case may be. And these seats, even though they may have been paid for or they may be, quote unquote taken, are still available. And they work with various people and they do up to the minute updates on their site. And when they find tickets, they'll put them up and then they set a price that, they can do. And then people bid on them. So you can go and say, well, I want to see the Lakers and I want to sit on the floor level, but I can only pay $112 a seat. And you put that in, and if they can do it, they'll just charge your credit card right there. You get your tickets. It's $112 a seat, no fees. They deliver them to you and everything. It's really, really great, and they've figured out a way to take something that's extremely frustrating and turn it into a bonus for the consumer. So, I highly recommend them. It's very, very simple to use. It's a great product.
Mm-hmm. And you don't feel shaken down afterwards. Go to scorebig.com and enter the code FRIEND like Alison Rosen is your new best friend, at checkout and get an extra $15 off scorebig.com's already low prices for your first order. Tickets on scorebig.com are always below box office price guaranteed. Don't forget to enter FRIEND at checkout and get an extra $15 off scorebig.com's already low prices for your first order. As a reminder, these, when there's a promo code, the company is looking to see how many people came to them via this show. So a lot of times people will ask how they can support the show, how they can help us out. And bless you if you ask that or think that. And here's an easy way. And you get a great product. But even if you don't think that or ask that, I still love you. Unconditionally. Unless you're an asshole. So it's like almost totally unconditionally. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we have an exciting episode for you. It is my friend, Rhett Reese. He wrote Zombieland and he developed the Joe Schmo Show, which is my favorite reality show ever. And working on a bunch of upcoming stuff, which you'll find out when you listen. Here comes the episode. Here it is, right here. I love you. Bye.
Alison Rosen. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Alison, with her good times never end. Alison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Alison Rosen, Alison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone, hi, hello, it's me, Alison Rosen, and welcome to another episode of Alison Rosen is your new best friend. My guest today is producer and writer Rhett Reese. Hello.
Hello.
Rhett Reese of Zombieland and Joe Schmo Show and a lot of other things that we're going to get into, and writer-producer. Did I leave anything out? Are you directing now?
We're not directing yet, no.
Okay.
We would love to,
Right.
but not yet.
The we being you and your writing partner,
Yes,
Paul
that's correct,
Wernick,
Paul
not the royal we.
No, I never
that'd be all
use the
three
royal
of you.
we as a rule.
Never ever?
Not really.
Okay. Great.
I could start tonight.
We could.
We could.
That's just you, though. Yeah, all of us could. So, let's see. I feel like there's all sorts of new projects that you're working on that I read about, but I don't know. So fill me in on what you're doing currently.
Well, the latest thing we're currently working on is a rewrite on a script of ours called Cowboy Ninja Viking.
Oh, wow.
Which we originally wrote for Disney and Universal ultimately bought from Disney. It's based on a graphic novel of the same name. It's about a superhero with multiple personality disorder, and living within his crazy head, he has a cowboy, a ninja, and a Viking who manifest themselves as imaginary friends, basically, who accompany him on his adventures. And so we're doing that right now, which we're very excited about. And then kind of the most recent twist for us is we sold a script, a spec script of ours, about a month ago, a big science fiction thing, which...
Is this Epsilon?
It's called Epsilon.
I was just reading about robots taking over and their pet humans.
That's exactly right. Robots and their pet humans. It was really exciting. We wrote a spec, which is rare for us, and it's one of those high-wire acts where you're never really sure how it's going to turn out, and this one broke our way, thankfully, and we're getting rolling on it, so we're excited.
Who bought it?
Sony.
Okay. Why is it called Epsilon?
The human pets of the robots
are in a fraternity?
Are all named after a sorority, actually.
Okay.
Just because we thought,
Why
they'd be
not?
making T-shirts and just the kinds of
Exactly.
things that go on in a sorority. Actually, every human in the movie is named after a letter of the Greek alphabet, and the guy who turns out to be the hero is named Epsilon, and so the movie is named Epsilon. Very exciting.
That is very exciting. And whose idea for the story was that?
Paul and I had always wanted to do a script about a human that was raised by robots and what that might entail. So that's kind of where it came from. And it germinated for a long time. For a couple years, we sat on it and thought about it. So by the time we actually wrote it, it was a fully formed idea that had slowly come together. And at that point, it was like off to the races. We wrote it very quickly, about a month and a half, and then sold the darn thing. Can we say
Darned?
darn? We can say darn.
We sure can. We can say fuck.
Oh, we can?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
God, you got so excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We sold that cocksucker. Anyway.
I'm glad the motherfucker sold. I was going to ask, who is going to play the robot and who are going to play the people, but you probably don't have casting ideas yet.
Casting not yet. We have to, do a little rewrite for the studio, and then we have to get a director, and then ultimately it will be cast. No cast, but
Okay.
we anticipate massive stars.
Of course.
Of course.
And G.I. Joe 2?
G.I. Joe 2 comes out next March. Stars Bruce Willis and The Rock, among others. And
Channing Tatum,
Channing
right?
Tatum, that's correct. He's a great guy and very, very funny and a wonderful actor.
Would you say that about everyone in your movie, though?
Sure. I probably would in a public setting. Behind closed doors, I would just... No. It was a very cool cast.
Mm-hmm.
Very eclectic, very strange. We had the biggest star in Korea is in the movie. Jonathan Pryce is in the movie, who's a wonderful British actor. The Rock, it's just a very strange group, but they come together and form the G.I. Joes.
What happened with... It was supposed to be released last year, though,
That's
right?
correct. It was supposed to be released in June. It got pushed 9 months, and essentially that's because it was a 2D movie, and the landscape of the world right now is that for some reason, internationally, people are really embracing 3D movies. I think in America, we're tiring of them, if not entirely tired of them. They were a gimmick. But because they're new to a lot of these other territories, they're coming on really, really strong. And our movie was 2D, and there have been some other 2D movies that had come out pretty close to when ours was supposed to that just really underperformed internationally. And that's where the lion's share of money is being made these days. Used to be that America was where you made all your money. Now it's overseas can double, even triple our national grosses. So I think in deference to that marketplace, they decided to slow down, place the movie into 3D, and that's going to take
what does that
a while.
mean about redoing it, adding a D?
I don't think it means much. I just think they convert it. You can make these movies where you shoot them in 3D, and then you can make them where you shoot them in 2D and you convert them after the fact. It's now becoming very cost-effective to convert them after the fact, and audiences, frankly, can't tell the difference. I know I can't. When I go into a 3D movie, my brain turns off about 5 minutes in, and I forget whether I'm even in a 3D movie. Like, it just stops landing for me. I don't know what the people in China and India think, but apparently they're ranting and raving to see 3D movies right now. So
Would you believe I've never seen a 3D movie?
I wouldn't believe it.
Gary, would you
I'd
believe
call
it?
you a
I
liar.
would believe it, and
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you because they kind of suck. Can I ask a question along this line?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I read an article that said that the other reason that 3D was a large reason for it, but the other reason was that the studio realized that Channing Tatum was going to be the biggest thing in the world because it was like around the time that a couple of his movies were coming out.
They
and
blew
wanted,
up, yeah.
They wanted to put him in more, and that might have slowed it down.
That was discussed at one point because, without giving away too much of the plot, Channing's not in a huge chunk of the movie. But in honesty, that was not the reason. Channing's part was expanded a little bit well before the decision to do that, so his part had already been beefed up somewhat. The thing is, Channing's career has really, really taken off. He was in
Magic
The
Mike.
Vow. He was in The Vow, and then he was in 21 Jump Street, where he showed off a whole new side to himself, and then he was in Magic Mike. So he became a bigger and bigger deal as the G.I. Joe post-production process was happening. So there was definitely a push and a desire to please audiences by having him on screen more. And so his part was expanded, but that all happened actually pre-decision to push, which left us scratching our heads a little bit when it did push, because the rumor was, hey, they're going to put in more Channing Tatum, they're going to do reshoots and put him in more. But that's actually not the case. So we still have to believe what we're told, which is the same thing the public was told, that the 3D was the largest decision for it. Now, we're not in the boardroom at Paramount, making these decisions, so we're not entirely sure exactly what went into it, but we're willing to take it at face value, what we were told. So,
How much say do you have if they make a decision about what direction they want them? Like, if they're like, we want more of this, we want more of this. And you
absolutely
feel like,
none. Like,
Okay,
as
so you're
a
just-
screenwriter, you are in the back half of the donkey costume. Like, you're looking at someone's butt constantly. Like, so yeah, you have no power whatsoever. We were hired to write G.I. Joe 2. We came in, we worked with a producer, a wonderful producer, and a studio and a financier, a co-financier. And our goal and our job is to please them and to please the stars, make sure they're happy with their roles.
They
and
have say as well?
the stars absolutely have say, yeah. They have big say. Well, it depends on how big the star is. But, yeah, I mean, someone like Will Smith, for instance, can completely control a movie just by virtue of his power. If he doesn't like something, it comes out. If he wants something in, it goes in.
Is that something that would be negotiated into his contract ahead of time?
No. I think it's just sheer power and leverage. I just think people would not want to. I'm using Will Smith as an example, but there are obviously any number of huge stars that the studio wouldn't want to, anger because they might need them for future things. Now, if you're first-time actor or young actor coming up, you have as little power as I have sitting here as the writer. You have no power to alter anything. But the bigger the star gets, the longer the resume gets, the more they can throw their weight around. And oftentimes, the star is the most powerful person on the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So about the 3D thing,
Yes.
though, I've been to like things at Disneyland that are 3D.
Mm-hmm. And it threw you off.
Yeah,
You
I was
didn't
done.
love it.
Maybe I haven't.
Are you
I feel like I
actively
have.
avoiding 3D? Like, you must be, because it's not coincidence that you haven't gone to any.
I don't think of myself as actively maybe I'm passively avoiding them. There hasn't been any movie in 3D that I thought I really want to see that.
You're like a matador. Like, there's a 3D movie coming at you, and you just sidestep it with your cape and let it fly right by.
Exactly.
That's the
I'm
metaphor.
not gonna be
That's the
gore.
passive.
I will not be gored by your 3D movie. I remember seeing, I remember going to like an Omnimax movie when I was like 5 or 6.
I don't know. Omnimax? What are you talking about right now? Seriously, like, what?
Okay, at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, there was this movie where the screen is domed above you.
Right.
And they showed some kind of like jellyfish thing happening on the screen, like the
It was
wonders of the
traumatic
deep.
for you for some reason.
Well, yes, because when there's no movie showing on this domed screen and you look up, there's like your eye has nothing to fix on, so it made me feel really dizzy. That really relates very little to the 3D thing, but in terms of movies that aren't just regular 2D on a screen, I saw one when I was 6 and I was not a fan.
You were thrown.
I
Makes
don't
sense.
know. So wait, you're saying though 5 minutes in, like it doesn't work on you anymore?
Well, yeah. By the first 5 minutes, I'm really noticing it, and then my brain somehow just adjusts, and I frankly couldn't tell you one way or the other after 5 minutes.
I mean, is it even like I saw Honey, I Shrunk the whatever in 3D
Right.
at Disneyland. I did see that, and
that was probably one of the first ones, right?
Yeah,
or
but
the
and I think
more
it
recent
had
ones.
like the seats that do something.
Maybe
when something
that was what was
happens.
bothering you.
Maybe, but I mean, do you actually like jump out of the way when something?
Not at
I mean,
all.
it sounds like life is 3D. I don't need more of that.
They're throwing an extra D on there, and you're
Yes.
just not happy with it.
I
You're,
don't
you're getting
know.
enough D in your life.
Movies are big enough for me.
Yeah.
Just in their
Well, and there are
2D
filmmakers
version.
who agree with you. I mean, Christopher Nolan has completely sworn off it, said he'll never do it. James Cameron, on the other hand, is convinced that not a single movie will be in 2D in 10 years. Like, he's really behind it. So it depends on who you ask. Again, my brain just doesn't seem to care.
I wonder if it's because we're too old.
You're dating us, but okay.
I don't know.
I mean, the Omnimax thing already dated you, so
Yeah, I know.
you're well
I know.
past that point.
And
But
I'll have people know you're not younger than I am, even though
correct.
you acted like when I mentioned Omnimax is from like the 1940s.
I was trying to, just
it was
make you look bad.
convincing. No,
Yeah,
I know.
thank you.
I realize that you don't know what. Gary, do you have?
No, I actually
Gary's
don't
younger
know
than
what.
we are.
Gary, help us out. Do you know what Omnimax is?
Does that mean anything to you?
No, but I also don't care about 3D movies, so
No,
Maybe it's-
Omnimax is.
no,
well,
I know. I
yeah.
understand they're separate things, but I'm saying
Right. For anyone, see, people who are listening are going to think, what just happened? Gary was out of the room for a second, so he missed the scintillating Omnimax discussion. Jellyfish on a giant domed screen above our heads. It made me feel nauseous. It was when I was 6, and it was at Caesar's Palace. I just
I'm
explained why I
suddenly
wasn't
afraid
going to
this whole
recap it, and
topic
now
is
I
making
am.
people feel nauseous. It's like, enough with the Omnimax. Get on to the meat of this conversation.
We've spent a lot of time discussing diarrhea and stuff with NWK, so if we're going to talk about things that are nauseating, jellyfish are not even
You're
up there.
so right.
You have no idea.
I do
Yeah.
fear jellyfish. I
They're
have
scary,
a phobia
right?
of jellyfish.
Really?
yeah. Well, I mean, I have a phobia of everything in the ocean. But
I
jellyfish
feel like
is...
in the ocean might not have even been necessary for that sentence. Is that
you may be
fair?
right. I
Okay.
have a lot of phobias, but I've always joked that surfing is the thing I'd be least likely to do in life because it combines about 9 of my phobias in one activity.
So list some of them for us.
Well, there's the bacteria in the water. There's sharks. There's undertow. There's drowning. There's getting driven into the sand and getting paralyzed. There's jellyfish, of course.
Yeah.
Skin cancer from the sun. Getting cold, hypothermia, going out to sea. You name
But
it.
you did semester at sea.
Yeah, but you're on a ship in that
Right,
program.
but still just a flimsy.
It's not flimsy, actually.
Vessel.
It's many tons. It's
Well, I know, but you could go overboard.
true. You could.
I
though
mean, were
wasn't
your
near the railing
phobias
too
heightened?
often. No,
You didn't have classes that involved looking over the railing?
no. There was no
going-
ocean observance going on, or whatever that would entail. No.
I would think they would make you look at fish and shit.
No, it was actually semester at sea is my favorite thing I've ever done, but it was just
I
like
know.
college on a ship, and it was by no means
So they
oriented
didn't
toward
make you-
marine stuff. No,
Really?
it was just
Really?
it-
Because I feel like if you study abroad, you'd have to like learn the language. I feel like you should.
the language of the sea. It's like Little Mermaid.
Yeah, exactly.
You have your Little Mermaid. No, I mean, Semester at Sea has a bunch of professors on, and they're all on sabbatical, and whatever they happen to teach is what is taught that semester. So it's a little haphazard. Like they're English professors and drama professors and history professors. So, I think maybe there was a marine biology class on there, but only one, and that's not really the focus. The ocean's not the focus. It's
Right.
more international travel, and then all that might accompany that.
So it's like the Love Boat.
It is.
But in a more scholastic setting.
Yes, exactly.
It's really your favorite thing you've ever done still?
Favorite thing I've ever done. Yeah,
You see,
I highly recommend it. To
everyone I meet says that to the point that I've almost wondered if it's all just a big
A
joke.
cult. Oh,
Yeah,
a
like
joke,
like a big inside joke where it's just like, because everyone is so ecstatic, and I do regret it. My best friend did it, and just it changed his life.
Well,
he
I mean,
came
it's
back a different guy. Like,
if you can afford it, I mean, it's not inexpensive. They do have scholarships, but if you can afford it, I tell young people, you can't not do it. I mean, there's like, what is wrong with what can conceivably be bad about getting on a ship, and going around the world for 100 days, visiting 10 countries with a bunch of college students? I mean, on international waters where there are no alcohol, at 21 years old laws. And I mean, it's awesome. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, I don't want to stress the alcohol because I don't drink much and I had a wonderful time. But it was just, life is all downhill after semester at sea.
That's actually something that you look sad.
I know, I did.
I know.
Sad.
That's something that comes up on this show sometimes. I talk about the fact that college for me was like, I don't know if I want to say the best I'm suspicious of people for whom high school was the best 4 years because
that's awful.
Yes.
Right. There's nothing worse than high school.
Right. But somehow I totally have a different feeling about people for whom college was the best 4 years. I think because I think of high school as a place where what makes you popular are things that, this is very judgmental sounding of me, but things that those are not my values. But in college, the things that I do value can make you popular. Like high school, if you're, a cheerleader and fearless, then you can be popular. Whereas college, to me, was about learning and meeting new people and being intellectual and being funny and all those things. And
things that matter more.
To me, at least. Yeah.
Too.
So for me, college was great. And I don't know if I want to say it's been downhill, but it hasn't been uphill.
It's easy to kind of over sentimentalize. College was stressful, and there were things that weren't great, but at the same time, you're right. I mean, like, what's not to like?
Yeah. Well, so
in retrospect,
but you've had a career that a lot of people would envy. People who are trying to make it, as a screenwriter. And you've had a lot of highs and lows. I don't know if I'd say a lot of lows, but there's been peaks and valleys.
Definitely
and stuff
peaks
since
and
I've known
valleys.
you.
It's a manic depressive occupation. There are ups and downs, big ups and big downs.
What's been the biggest up and biggest down since then?
The biggest up for me was the Joe Schmo show. I know,
It's like my favorite reality show.
Allison loves it. And
for people who don't know what it is, can you explain it?
Yes. So basically, it's the Truman Show in a reality television setting. So we took a guy, we brought him on an eviction-style reality show like Big Brother called Lap of Luxury, where he was going to live in a mansion with 9 other people. They would play games, they would vote each other off, and at the end, someone would win $100,000. What we did not tell this person was that he was the only real thing on the show. All the other contestants in the house were, in fact, improvisational actors.
Kristen Wiig, before
Kristen
anyone knew
Wiig,
who she was.
That's right. We cast Kristen Wiig before she was on SNL. Anyway, they were improvisational actors pretending to be reality contestants and performing essentially a parody, a send-up of reality TV.
Right.
So it allowed us to parody reality TV. This whole show is this ridiculous show full of drama and silliness, and then mixed in was this one real guy who had no idea that everybody else was faking.
Ralph Garman was the smarmy host.
Yes, he was.
There was the eviction ceremony where you throw the plate in the fire. The whole thing, like like all hands on the high-priced call girl or
yes,
high-priced hooker.
hands on a high-priced hooker. That's right.
So good. I thought there would never be another genuine reality show after it because it had so perfectly parodied the reality show construct.
And there was
wrong,
there was a recent parody of reality shows called Burning Love there were webisodes.
Oh, yes.
And we
Natasha
had done
Leggero, who was in your second
she did.
season,
yes,
was
that's
in
right.
it. Yeah.
And our second season of Joe Schmo sent up The Bachelor and other relationship shows. So they were probably 10 years after the fact or 8 or 9 years after the fact doing what we did, and yet the difference being that we had this live element mixed in, which made it really fun and exciting.
But in your second season, one of the Schmoes figured it out.
Yes, she did.
Yes.
So she was on to us, and we had to replace her mid-show, and
Yvonne,
it was full of
Irene,
drama.
what was her name?
Ingrid.
Ingrid. I knew it was something
yeah.
like that.
Starts with an
well,
I.
so then you folded her over, though.
Yes.
So that she was one of the actors.
Once she figured it out, we brought her in on The Secret. We made her one of the actors, and we brought in a new girl, Amanda, to take her place. And then Ingrid had to then fool Amanda. So it was, gosh, nothing really like it had ever been done before. Very little has been done like it since, and that's why I think it's so memorable for me and was such a honeymoon. I had a wonderful time on that show, as did everybody else who did it. It was unique.
And how did you come up with the idea?
It came out of the fact that my buddy Paul, my writing partner, was working in reality TV, and I was writing screenplays, and he said, we ought to come up with an idea for a reality show sometime. And so it was my scripted background meeting his unscripted background, and we wanted to include both of those in a show. And thus, it led to the idea of, well, we'll script it, but there'll be this one unscripted element at the heart of it. So.
And I know that you... Like, when I think about working on something like that, it would be so hard for me not to just blurt it out. And I recall you saying something like, you're bad at surprise parties and things like that as well.
I hate practical jokes.
Because for anyone who doesn't realize, like, there was a whole bunch of not telling the person what's truly going on. Like, the whole thing rested on that.
Oh, yeah. For 2 weeks, we were fooling this poor soul, and it just ate at me, man. I felt really, really guilty because I can barely do a practical joke for 10 seconds without saying, grabbing the person and saying, it's all fake.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Everything's fine. Like, I hate letting that thing last, and yet this thing lasted 2 weeks, and so I was definitely sweating it out. But it ended well, and you can still get it on DVD. It's still out there, both seasons. And in fact, it's coming back on, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
In January, that Joe Schmo 3 is coming out. Did you know that? Have you heard that?
I hadn't heard it. You mentioned that there was a Joe Schmo 3, but you weren't as involved.
Yeah, we weren't involved this time because when they called us, we were just too busy. It was literally 8 years after the fact of the first show or the second season of Joe Schmo. So when it came, and we were just booked, but ultimately it was run by people we love and trust, and they're working on it now to get it ready for January, and we're excited. Ralph Garman's the host again, so that's exciting.
What's the
Brand new
premise?
cast. It is a fake bounty hunter show where this guy comes on a show thinking he's competing to become a bounty hunter, and in fact everything is fake again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
So how did you justify it during, I didn't realize it was only 2 weeks, but during those 2 weeks where this guy, Matt Kennedy Gould, the Schmo, is having all these genuine reactions to things that are, he's being manipulated.
I know.
How did you justify it?
Well, I think the most important thing we did was we kept the material very light and silly. We tried not to engage his emotions too deeply. I mean, we failed. We failed in some cases.
Earl got
He was a
booted off.
crier. He was a crier, and when he became a crier, I became a crier because I literally went home to my hotel room and wept to my parents into the phone saying, "What are we doing to this poor guy?" But we kept it light and silly, and we knew at the end of the day he was going to be the star of his own TV show. He was going to win $100,000 for sure just by being cast, and that it was going to be silly fun ultimately. And I think knowing those things in our back pocket made it such that I didn't feel like we were experimenting on him per se or ruining his life. I felt like ultimately we would be able to defend ourselves and he would forgive us, and that's largely what happened. So.
And what's been the lowest low?
Well, the lowest low is just any time in Hollywood when you just sweat and put blood and tears into something, and it dies. It's just, which happens often. You can work years on things and have them die or have the rug get pulled out from under you. It's just a devastating feeling because unlike if I were to write a novel, for instance, which I have, no one's read it, but I wrote a novel, but at least a novel.
I feel like some of the people at io9.com have read it.
Yes, they have, or at least one or two, because they did actually publicize it way back when. It's on
Anxiety,
Amazon.
right?
It's called Anxiety. Yeah, but I'm not. I shouldn't have overtly tried to plug that. I guess I just did.
Oh,
but.
This whole thing. Overtly
This is
plug
all this
everything.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, and if you're going to buy it on Amazon,
that
click
case-
through the banner on my website.
Exactly.
That helps out the show. Yeah, that's what
I'm
we do
glad
here.
we're being transparent. But anyway, but a novel, you get your day in court because ultimately it's a finished product, right? You can put it in front of a person and you say, hey, read it. Like it or not, it's out in the world. A screenplay, you can work years and years on, and no one ever sees it. That's the sad part. And no one reads screenplays really except for a select weird few people, mostly people who are writing screenplays will read them. But most often it's just something that dies a very lonely death on a shelf. No one ever learns about it. No one ever sees it. And because it's essentially a blueprint for something else, and people don't go around looking at blueprints. So you can just slave for years and years on things and never have them come to fruition, and it becomes extraordinarily frustrating. Even when you get paid to do those things, which is awesome, the end goal is to have a movie come out and have people enjoy it. And when that doesn't happen, which is most often the case, like most of these things don't make it, it's extraordinarily painful.
Does having a partner help?
Yes. Yes, we always say, well, when one of us is down, the other one picks them up. And, of course, the irony being that usually it's the opposite. Paul and I can go negative pretty often. So usually when one person's up, the other person just knocks them right down. So we have a way of doing that. But yeah, it does, because you've got a partner in crime. You've got someone who really gets you, gets your exact trajectory. So when you're feeling bad, so are they, and when you're feeling great, so are they. It's just nice to have someone who gets you at that moment.
I'd imagine it helps so that you don't feel like I'm completely invalidated in this moment.
True. You can blame it on your partner. Exactly.
No, I don't even mean that, but just the feeling of I so much of me was wound up in this project, I cease to exist now.
That's true. I mean, we're at least one step away from it as writers. I think actors have it the hardest, where they're really being judged for just themselves, and that's very hard. At least we're being judged for what we put down on a piece of paper, and as you say, with another person, you've defrayed the responsibility 50% there. It's still hard, but at the very least, it's a little diffused, I guess.
I was just thinking the other day that I often have problems with defuse or diffuse. Or diffuse.
Diffuse, yeah.
I feel like I've used them wrong in the past. I'm sorry, people for whom that happened.
No, I think they're okay.
no, they're very.
There are a few out there.
I need to defuse them.
Yeah. So true.
See, they're angry. You also did Invasion Iowa with Shatner.
That's true. We did a similar hoax show where we fooled an entire town in Iowa into thinking that William Shatner was shooting a movie in their town. The whole movie was fake. Shatner was surrounded by a fake entourage. The movie itself we created was a really bad science fiction movie that Shatner had purportedly written when he was right before Star Trek, when he was in his early 20s. So we had a lot of fun with that, and we fooled the townspeople. Some of them, got parts in the movie. Some of them were working as Shatner's assistant and stuff. It was extraordinarily silly and fun, and it kind of came and went in a heartbeat on Spike TV a long time ago. But it's also on DVD, and we got a real kick. And working with Shatner was really wonderful. I mean, he is the ultimate workaholic. Like, he was starring in a major CBS sitcom at age 82, I think. So you can imagine.
Wow. And do you still hang out with him?
Yeah. Occasionally, yeah.
Do you watch football at his
house
or something?
We do. We sometimes get invited to his house to watch Monday Night Football, and he's a generous host and wonderful. He's got a beautiful screen, and there's always great food, and it's just fun. He's a really cool guy. He seems 20 years younger than he is. And to me, that's the greatest, that he's someone to emulate. Like, I want to be working when I'm super old. I went to see Vertigo this one time at the American Cinematheque, and they had the production designer come up afterwards, and they wheeled him onto stage. Like, Vertigo was made in the 50s, and he was 93 years old. And the interviewer started to interview him, and I thought, oh my God, this poor guy, is he even going to be able to talk? And he talked about Vertigo, and then the interviewer said, let's talk about some of your more recent films, like $1 Million Baby and Gran Torino and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this guy was Clint Eastwood's production designer at the age of 93. And to me, that was the ultimate goal, to still be working and relevant and excited about what you do and loving to do it at age 93. You can't really beat that. I'm not the guy who wants to early retire early and head to a beach necessarily.
Yeah. See, Adam, well, not a beach for you.
No, God, no. That's a really good point.
Adam,
head to a landlocked, Nebraska. Right. I'm going to go to retire in Nebraska.
Adam talks about how people, that's Adam Carolla, that is, talks about how people are just living too long these days, and the amount of money that is spent between 85 and 95 for not a very good quality of life just makes it so that turn in early, and by that I mean die early. And I think, I don't want that. I'm greedy. I would like to live as long as possible, and then I think possibly forever, and then I do that thing where I try to imagine living forever, but the human brain can't imagine that, and then I think that I don't want that.
You start to get disturbed.
Yeah, well, no, I cannot envision forever. Forever to me is always up to that certain point, and then I have to be no, forever is it's infinity. There's no point there. And then the idea of just a perpetual existence is
it's a
that's
little
creepy.
daunting. Yeah, it's a little terrifying.
It is disturbing. Yeah.
It is. Well, what I would say to Adam is, you say, well, who wants to live to be 90 years old? And my answer is always 89-year-olds. Like, and I mean, it's easy, I think, for Adam or other people to say, well, I wouldn't want to live. But once you're there, I mean, I know one of my very favorite people is 94 years old, sharp as a tack, and he doesn't want to go. Certainly, he's still able to get around and has a very sharp mind. And
Who's
so
your
I think it's
favorite
easy to judge
94-year-old?
when we're. He was a professor on Semester at Sea, in fact.
And you're still buddies with him.
Still buddies with him, yep. He lives up in Seattle, Jim Calderwood. He's awesome. And he's a role model, very active. He was sea kayaking on his 90th birthday.
Wow.
So I wouldn't do that, of course, because that's terrifying. What if the kayak were to turn over?
Oh my God. No, then you're like in a watery grave.
And you're 90.
you're
It's like
trapped,
there's
yeah.
no getting out of it when you're
No.
90. You're just stuck.
And who knows if people would even try to save you?
No,
'cause they're just
they
like,
might just
yeah.
cut bait.
All right. Yeah, fuck that. When did all of your phobias start? And I'm going to do that annoying thing where I ask a question and then I insert information, which is sitting before you. It's as if I'm sitting here with Jesse Eisenberg, which really that character in Zombieland is basically you.
It is me, yeah.
When did all of the phobias start?
Well, my mom always described me as a kid like, if there was mud, I would be so careful before I would step into the mud. Like I was kind of very circumspect about things very young. I just think I got a double dip of anxiety on both sides of my family. So, and then what happens is when you've got anxiety running through you, it's a little like Velcro. It just attaches to whatever is in your life. That happens whenever the anxiety pops up and you're around X, suddenly you're now afraid of X. So I think it was pretty early. Like swimming in the water, I had a really bad swimming instructor at an indoor pool in Columbus, Ohio when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I used to get the chlorine up my nose, and he was terrible, and I felt like I was drowning all the time. So swimming for me has never been great. But I just think as you go through life, and if you're an anxious person, that anxiety can glom onto things, and it's unfortunate, but it also, made for a fun script in Zombieland. So, sometimes you can benefit from your suffering if you're making art, or I don't know if you call Zombieland art, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'd call it art.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. But you seem like in the amount of time I've spent around you, you never really seem to be ruled by these anxieties. At one time, were you?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I like to say is that when you see someone who's anxious, you will tend not to see someone who's overtly anxious. Anxious people put up a facade, and they also kind of design their lives to avoid what makes them anxious. So you don't see me anxious because you're not seeing me snorkeling in open water. Like if you saw me snorkeling in open water, you'd see me very anxious. You're not seeing me, thinking I'm lost in the wilderness, which my parents saw this summer. Like when I was hiking with them, I'm like, we don't know where we are, and I started to have one of my meltdowns. Like, so most people who are phobic, they just simply avoid what scares them, and as such, it never really manifests. So. And with Zombieland, the fun was it's like, well, take someone who's really agoraphobic and just wants to hole up in his room and then force him to come out by virtue of this crazy post-apocalypse and just see what happens. And that was fun to explore, ultimately.
With that, the idea was that all of his phobias keep him safe, right?
Yes,
That's a
exactly.
skill set.
Exactly. It became a skill set. And
what were some of the...
Well, I mean,
the rules.
Well, he comes up with all these rules to get through his day. And one of them is, cardio. Make sure you've got a good cardiovascular system going, so when you have to run, you can run away from zombies. When in doubt, know your way out. Like always know where the exit is. Always have your escape hatch. That kind of thing. And it did occur to me that someone who is careful, someone who is afraid of normal things, would be pretty adapted to survive in a world of zombies, because you have to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, and that was a little bit of the genesis for Zombieland. That character being thrown into that environment, and then of course you have to, for the virtue of storytelling, you have to pair that kind of character with a really active, fearless character who will drag him into difficult situations, and that became Woody Harrelson's character, Tallahassee. So that was kind of what made it dramatically possible. But I think, if you're not telling your story, if you're a writer and you're not ultimately telling your story in some way, or at least using your life to inform your work, you may be making a mistake, because often it's the stuff that you know best and is the stuff that you can write best by virtue of that.
What drew you to writing?
Good question. I mean, I loved movies. I reviewed movies in my high school newspaper. So I both loved movies and kind of liked writing.
High school was where?
Phoenix. Yeah. And then ultimately, I think with regard to movies, there are a ton of jobs, but very few where you're actually storytelling per se. And I think that's what I love, was telling stories. I wrote the first 26 pages of a Hardy Boy book when I was in 5th grade. The Case of the Lost Valley, it's called.
The Lost Valley?
The Case of the Lost Valley. And it's hilarious because I read basically every Hardy Boy book at that age, and I thought, why don't I write my own? And I did write 26 pages on a steno notebook, which I still have to this day. And so somewhere in me was that desire to tell stories. And I think with movies, if you love movies and you want to be a storyteller, there are not really that many things you can do. You can direct, you can edit, maybe you can act. But I think the great thing about writing is you don't need any money to do it. There's no capital involved. You just sit down, you get a piece of software for $100 on it, you get an old laptop, and you're off and running. And that's what I did. I was self-taught. So
Your first break was David Caruso? Was he in there somewhere?
No, actually. I'm
Who
not
am I
sure.
thinking
I
of?
know why you're thinking
Okay.
of. My first job was working for William Peterson, who was the star of CSI.
Yeah.
David Caruso is also the star of
Okay.
CSI. William Peterson was the star of the original CSI. He was my first job. I was his assistant on a movie, and he was the most wonderful guy ever. Made my life totally easy and wonderful. I got to see what everybody on a movie did, which I do recommend to young people who want to be on movies, because until you get on a set and see what everybody does, you have no clue. And I immediately saw what all those people did and immediately knew I wanted to write, and then I dove into that, so pretty soon after.
Let's probe the phobias more.
Okay.
Because my audience enjoys vulnerabilities and
I'm
mental illness.
socially very phobic. I couldn't go on a date to save my life. In college, I was just a mess when it came to women, and I really struggled. They just terrified me. I didn't know how to act around them. I thought that I wouldn't, I wouldn't know how to please them, or I wouldn't have anything that would please them. So I was very socially anxious with regard to that. Mother Nature in general terrifies me. I'm just so not in my element when you get me in Mother Nature, whether it's on a hike or whether. I like to look at Mother Nature, but
through a window, right?
Yeah, through a window.
That's how I like to
or
see
out on a nice balcony.
Yeah, Well, I always say I like to appreciate the outdoors from indoors.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's less
balcony's fine.
It's less itchy,
Oh
indoors,
my God,
and
there's
it's
so many fucking bugs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind bugs, but I like being outdoors when when I can rationally look around and say, okay, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get lost. But one of the things I love reading all those horrible survival stories about people who get stranded out there, and it's as long as it's happening to somebody else.
Yeah.
But then when it comes time to put me in a similar environment, I'm just a basket case.
And yet you went hiking last summer?
Well, with my parents, and they, in theory, knew where we were going, but it was a hike no one had ever taken before. And then we went off the trail, and that's when I started to melt down.
Yeah.
Of course, my dad has made great fun of me since that moment because it was pathetic. But he's also sensitive to the fact that I get a little phobic in those situations.
What kind of meltdown are we talking about?
I wanted to turn back. Because I thought to myself, I can't find the car. It's and when you can't find the car,
right.
and there are no landmarks around, and then you don't trust that your dad can find the car, because they're not what orienteering people they don't know any better than I do once they leave the trail. So I did have a little bit of a meltdown. I'm not proud of it, but I wasn't I was weeping or anything, but I was very anxious.
I once almost had a meltdown in the parking lot at the Kodak Center because I couldn't find my car.
Couldn't find your car,
yeah.
which is that can be a very, especially for a woman at night, is that what you were worried about?
It was a daytime, and I was boy, but no.
You just felt embarrassed that you couldn't find it.
I felt stupid because I thought, how can I not find it? I should have, written down the letter and number. So there was that. And it was very hot. I had just recorded a TV thing, so I had on all this makeup, I was beginning to feel claustrophobic in my own face. And I had an appointment to go look at an apartment, and I was like, I'm going to be late.
Yeah.
My phone is going to run out of juice. I'm not going to be able to call this person. I don't even have any service down here. And I I just kept walking up and down, and I'm like, everything looks the same. How am I ever going to find it? There's no way.
You could be here forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the garage. Yeah.
Yes, that's what
being
it was.
Lost
I could
in
be
general,
here forever.
Yeah, being lost in general is a very aversive feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, and I'm actually pretty good with directions. I mean, I have a good sense of direction, thankfully. But when the minute I don't know which is north, south, east, west, I get any sense of I don't know where I am, I start to get anxious. Absolutely. The other thing is, I had huge panic attacks in my early 20s. That's usually when panic attacks manifest themselves in your early 20s. And they were devastating. Like, because once you have a panic attack and you completely lose your shit, like, then kind of all bets are off. I mean, it's like you're so irrational in that moment. And then the minute it ends, you're fearing that it's going to happen again. So you have a lot of anticipatory anxiety. It's going to happen again. So I really struggled in my mid-20s with just sheer panic attacks.
What happened the first time?
I was actually taking the GRE the first time. I was taking a standardized test. One of the things that I was put on earth to do, other than write, I was very good at standardized tests, pretty much the only thing I've ever really been great at. And so I kind of went in, as I went into every standardized test, kind of thinking I could get a perfect score or close to it. And I got to this weird section it was an analytical section. The GRE used to have this thing. And there were hat boxes. And you had to like decide which hats went in which boxes or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly, and there were like 8 questions
Like those
related to this
logic
one
puzzle
concept.
things,
It was like that. And normally I was good at those, but suddenly I just couldn't do it. And because I started to get afraid, I'm like, what if I can't do this? And just by thinking those words, it was like in my head, I was like, all of a sudden my body started to go off like a just like a 5-alarm fire. Like suddenly I was breathing heavily and my eyes couldn't focus and my hands were clammy and my heart was just pounding out of my chest. And I honestly couldn't even think straight enough. I just melted down on the test. And I came out of there just like, oh my God, like if I can't take a test, which is what I was best at, like what can I do? Like and then you start to worry, when is it going to happen again? Like,
So did you not finish, or did you?
I actually I tanked that section, and then I managed somehow to pull it together and keep going on the test. And when I got the test back, I did well on the other sections and just completely tanked that section. But still, it was really traumatic. And then I had one going into a job interview, and then suddenly I was desperately afraid to go into a job interview to the point where I just thought, and then I thought, I'm going crazy. I'm like, if I can't go on a job interview, I can't get a job. I'm going to be unemployed my whole life. I'm going to end up homeless. Like all these thoughts start racing through your mind. It was really, really traumatic. Anyway.
Well, so no, keep going. Then what happened?
So ultimately, I tried Prozac for a little while, for about a year. It may have helped, it may not. I'm really still not even sure.
So you were seeing a therapist during this time, or
I
this?
did. I started to see a therapist
around this time.
I got really depressed because I was anxious, and I'm not a depressive person, but because I was anxious, I got depressed, and I started to take Prozac, and I think the key to getting over it over time was just starting to think of the panic attacks as not something I could avoid or something that would ever entirely go away, but more the kind of thing that was ultimately physically harmless and that would pass like a storm, like, a squall that would kind of blow in and then blow out. And once I kind of accepted them a little bit, I became less terrified of them happening. They seemed a little bit less catastrophic. I'm still at a point where I feel like they're never gone forever, like they can come back, and I don't want to ever talk myself into the idea that I'm cured, like, because then if one comes back, I'm going to be all the more devastated. But over time, I think just the scar tissue and the passage of time helped me cope with them a little bit better, and then they became less frequent as a result. They're very hard. Gosh, I feel terrible for any young person who has to go through that. And usually, again, it is in your 20s or late teens, and it's a pretty vulnerable time. Early 20s is always hard.
It really is, and I feel like you're not.
That's the hardest time of life.
No one tells you that.
No, it's supposed to be exciting.
I was caught off guard by how much it sucked.
It really sucks.
The identity crisis of getting out of college and being like, wait, I don't know how anything works.
Exactly. And the whole system is set up, life is set up to, so that experienced people hold the levers of power, and then ultimately they retire, and then everybody bumps up a level, right? Until finally the young person does graduate into the position of power. But you come out of college thinking you can rule the world, and suddenly I was making coffee and making copies and not even doing a good job at it, and having people kind of be very condescending and mean to me as I made bad coffee and bad copies. And that was just devastating, because I came out like, oh,
you went to Stanford.
I did.
Right? You're supposed to
yeah. I was supposed
graduate
to. Yeah, I was supposed to rule the world.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be, Steve
President.
Jobs by the
Right.
age of And instead, I was just struggling as a PA, just kind of hating my life. And there's a process of dues paying that goes on in this country, in this world, where you have to slowly, generally come into your own, and that's hard.
Maybe that's what no one is ever really
This
told.
is becoming very depressing.
That's okay. That's what I excel at. It's my thing. Maybe no one ever tells you how much dues paying there's going to be. I don't know. I just felt very ill prepared for what happened.
It's almost as though you should go to the commencement speech and have the person stand up there and say, "Get ready." You think it's like the good stuff's behind you. About 5 years of shit headed right at you just to have fun.
Yeah.
Instead of like, it's so exciting, you may do anything. It's like, no, you
Right.
can't. You're gonna do menial level shit.
Yeah.
Is what you can do.
Right.
That's what you're gonna do.
Right,
And then
right.
some of you are gonna get scared and flee back to school again because that's the only safe place, and the rest of you are just gonna have shit land on your head. That's kind of what they should tell you.
Yeah, because there's no way you're going to go straight from college to the high-level job that you think you're ready for, which actually
No.
you're not ready for, but you're not going to realize that till many years later.
Yeah, I mean, there's the occasional Mark Zuckerberg. But those are always the vast exceptions to the rule. So generally, you have to just, have to eat a little shit those first few years. That's
lot
why
of
it's so
shit.
hard.
Yeah.
That said, 30's way better.
Yeah,
And 40's better. I mean, 40's whole other crises, start to occur.
right.
But it's
For
not.
men,
it's not the
do you
same
think
problems.
Because my dad turned 50. We used to joke that he turned 50 for like 3 years because I think starting at 47.
It was just.
Oh my God, he
was
had the
moribund.
midlife crisis for maybe longer than for a long time. I mean, just. Like, if my parents were ever to have divorced, it would have been then. It was just really hard.
Tough,
it was
yeah.
tough. He was
But it was
going
50,
through
not
something.
40,
It was 50.
interestingly, yeah.
But I think now it's 40. Do you think?
Yeah, well, I hated 40, yeah. I mean,
Why?
Well, it's the number part of it. I think it's the idea that I'm on the back nine now. It's like you're definitely half over at that point, and the better half's over. I think as a guy, there's a little bit this idea that you're going to be less virile and less powerful, and that you're just going to slowly decline to becoming
Really? At
pathetic.
40, you think that?
Well, I don't think it happens, but I think in your mind it
Yeah.
starts to happen, or at least in the back of your mind you're thinking, geez, my best years really are behind me. And that's terrifying. It really is. It's in its own way. But I've always, like, if you'd asked me at 26, I would have been like, oh, I hate getting old. Like, 26 is so old. Like, I'm always feeling that.
Yeah.
Like, I think the key is to feel, younger than you'll ever be as opposed to older than you've ever been. But I always feel older than I've ever been. I'm always feeling like, oh, I'm old.
Oh, younger than you'll ever be. That's good. I never thought of that. It's very
Yeah.
cups half full.
It is, in a way.
Do you consider yourself an optimist, pessimist, realist?
I think people have called me a cynic. I am definitely a realist. In Hollywood, I'm a pessimist because it's part of having a pessimism shield, which is a very important piece of your armor when you go into battle. Because
What is that?
Well, basically, if you expect something to go badly and it does, you won't feel as bad because you're prepared for it. Like,
Does that
'cause you
actually work?
expect it. Not really. No, I mean it does and it doesn't. I mean, the great irony of Hollywood is you have to be optimistic to even go out. You have to be unrealistically optimistic
Yeah.
to even come out here because it's such a glamorous job in theory that it invites all these people, and there are very few jobs to be had. And so a ton of talented people don't make it or really struggle to make it, and so you almost have to be a Pollyanna-ish person to even try. So in that sense, I am optimistic. I'm optimistic about the state of the world much more than most people, believe it or not.
Really?
I think that the world's much better off right now than it's ever been in history, for sure. I mean, it's like if you were to go back to any time in history before now, things were a lot worse in measurable, quantifiable ways. So I do think we're at the best time to be living ever, and that will continue to improve.
In what way? I actually agree with you when you put it that way. But what kind of things are you thinking
Well,
about?
for instance, if I do this thing, it's kind of I don't have it with me, but it's like picture what this country is. Like there is a country, okay, and that country has no cars, and everyone lives to be 35 years old, and there's child pornography is essentially legal. There's no civil rights. Women can't vote. African Americans can't vote. It's like or whatever. Minorities can't vote. There's no air conditioning. There's no television. Like And I say all these things. You think, oh God, what an awful place that would be. And the answer is, it's America in 1900. Like that is what life was like. So it sucked. Like again, there was the dentistry sucked. It's like people got polio. Just things have measurably gotten better. I mean, we have all this angst always that we're going over a cliff and that the world's about to end. And I've tapped into that certainly with regard to our projects, but if you step back, I do think this is the best time ever to be alive.
And I think every age was afraid of where, oh no, we're becoming too modern. It's
Absolutely.
cold. This telegram is going to make it so we never talk to each other in person or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're a world of bitchers, and that's okay because that's what drives us to make the world better, right? If we were all happy and accepted things the way they were, things would never improve. So it's good that we bitch and that we're unsatisfied. And I also think every era always thinks that the previous era had better morals. It's like, oh,
which is such
things
bullshit,
are falling apart.
I
Kids
think.
are terrible these days, which is all BS. People are always just people, and they'll always be people. So,
do you think that this new crop of youngsters, though, is more entitled or has more trouble paying dues than in the past?
I really don't. No, I don't. I mean, I think
maybe
certainly
we're just getting older.
Parents are easier on them than they've ever been. But the young people I know are awesome. I really do. I think they're awesome, and I think they're no better or worse than any generation before. They make the same mistakes. They've grown up in a slightly different way with different technology at their fingertips and probably a little more lenient parenting and stuff. But I don't think they're any better or worse. And I hate curmudgeonly old people who think that the new generation sucks. I just think that's just a terrible attitude.
Do you want to have kids?
I still do. Yeah, I still do. I'm getting up there, but yeah, I really do. I would like some kids at some point, I think. Yeah.
Let's see. Where to go now? Do
you want kids?
I do want kids, and I'm getting up there.
Well, I mean, there comes a point when kids have to really become a priority as you get. I mean, in the old days, you'd have kids at 22, and you wouldn't. But nowadays, as we start to age, you really. I mean, guys don't have biological clocks, and yet at the same time, I don't want to be Rod Stewart, with 65 with a 2-year-old. I really don't want to do that. I want to be able to be young enough to play with my kids and have fun and not die before they're too young to, draw on my wealth of advice. You know what I mean? But so it's not. I mean, women have the biological clock. Men have more of. They have a similar clock. It's just not quite as hard and fast.
I just worry that I'm going to be too tired. I feel like so tired now.
I know.
And yet what I hear is no, all of a sudden you'll have energy for it.
Probably, yeah, I hope, I guess. I mean, I guess there are two schools of thought. Either you can have the kids early and then enjoy your retirement in your 50s and 60s, or you can, enjoy your 20s and 30s and just go all out and then just sacrifice to yourself, to your kids from that point forward.
Yeah. Well, I actually visited a baby yesterday.
How did that work out?
Well, I think of myself as someone who's good with babies, right? So these are friends of Daniel, my boyfriend, and we went to go visit them and their new baby.
Ooh, so this was kind of a test for you guys. In a weird way, a test for you guys where you were like, well, let's see what a baby's like. Not really.
I mean, yes.
Unofficially.
As much as I don't want to admit that, but yes, I think it was because I was like, oh, see me how great I am with a baby. So anyway...
And it didn't work out well?
Fucking baby cried.
I have a very similar story.
The entire time I was holding the baby.
I have a very similar story. Same thing happened to me one time. And that's a devastating feeling.
Right.
But it's not your fault.
That's what they were trying to tell. Oh, it's the baby and he's changing and she's tired. She's this. But then when Daniel held the baby.
He calmed down?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Really great with the baby. Now, I don't know if for him this was a test as well. But then I started thinking today, what if, like so many things, he just takes care of that whole situation, the whole rearing of the child. And, that's not really what I want, but hey, whatever.
If he's really good at it and you suck, you better pass that baby on.
I just never envisioned that it was going to go down like that.
I have multiple friends who are stay-at-home dads. It's becoming much more common, and there's no stigma attached to it anymore where there once probably was. So there's no shame in that. That's awesome.
I don't think of myself as some frigid, non-nurturing person, though.
But the baby thought of you as that.
Evidently, the baby assessed that. But I mean, really, that really is fundamentally not at all how I envision myself. I think of myself probably as God's gift to motherhood. It's what I was born to. I mean, not really, because I would have done it sooner if it's really what I was born to do. But I think that it's.
You're taking one specific case and you're blowing it out of proportion. Like that baby probably needed a change.
What if the
or
baby
something like...
spoke for all babies?
No, it really didn't.
What if it sensed something?
No, it really didn't.
What if there's nervousness coursing through me?
No way.
What if I had poisonous milk?
It's just not the case. Well, you may, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to.
I mean, who knows?
Say
Who's
that
to
you
say?
don't.
I don't know.
But at the same time, go hang out with 100 babies, and if a bunch of them, it's like any experiment.
You're right.
You gotta experiment.
You're
a
right.
little
This
bit.
is just anecdotal.
It's anecdotal.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite stories ever.
Yes.
Didn't you give a baby a gift
Yes.
that did not go over well?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
gave a 3-year-old girl a book.
I'm laughing
Yeah,
already.
you know what yeah. I went to my friend's 3-year-old girl's birthday party, and I like to get books for kids. So usually what I'll do is when they're born, I'll get them, Go Dog Go and Pet the Rabbit or whatever, and then their second birthday, I get them more books, and then by their third birthday, I'm running out of books. I already get. So then I start to get them books for when they're older, and just figure, they'll be able to read them someday. It's great. So this girl's now 3. I've bought her 10 books already. I think, at least that's my memory. And so I go to the bookstore, and I'm like. Basically, I'm thinking, well, what books did older girls like? It's like, I don't know. I never read, books that girls liked. I was always reading the Hardy Boys. So what book did I get this 3-year-old girl and give to her on her birthday without even cracking the cover to see what it's about? But are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Now,
story of a girl's coming of age.
Do you want to tell
period.
the audience for the? Yeah, okay.
It's about a girl getting her period.
Yeah, it's about a girl getting her first period. And so I gave this gift to a 3-year-old, and she opened it up in a room full of mothers with their 3-year-olds, all sitting around, and they've never forgotten it. I was the butt of many a joke from that day forward.
You didn't even look it up.
They said, "Well, Uncle Rhett, what an interesting choice." I'd never looked it up. I just knew girls. I remember girls liking it when I was younger. So I just bought it. Anyway,
it is a classic. I enjoyed it.
And the girl's now 13. Maybe it'll come in.
Maybe.
At some point,
Except, although I wonder if they've updated it, because the sanitary napkins. People who know Judy Blume know this is an issue. The sanitary napkins mentioned in the book are like the old-fashioned kind
so
that
it
had a belt and stuff. Some people
unless it's
listening probably don't
rewritten-
even know. I think they might have updated that.
Oh my gosh.
I know. See, I bet you
That
didn't
could
know.
be just scarring.
This actually leads me into an email that I wanted to read that I got today.
By all means.
Let's see here. Allison, as a longtime Alison Rosen is your new best friend listener, I have to tell you that your podcast never fails to be worth every minute I listen. I've been on board since day one and have not missed an episode yet. I always enjoy the open and frank discussions, typically funny, but sometimes delving deep into some serious areas. I do have to apologize that I'm slightly late listening to the latest installment, so this email is not exactly timely. It's totally okay. One discussion thread prompted me to write in today. On the Sarah Schaefer podcast, you had an exchange about labia. This is a subject, unfortunately for women, seldom discussed. I'm one of those guys who does like large labia, and am fortunate to have a wife who was, sorry, I don't mean to laugh, blessed with them. Oh no. Your reaction to the mention of large labia was not what I thought it would be. You reacted in disgust and then added a quick, though not particularly believable, retraction. In the next podcast with Elizabeth Lame, you had a great exchange about plastic surgery. I agree with where the conversation went, that most plastic surgery is not good, but that it can be used when repairing damage or in cases where a person's health is at stake. Here I have to say I'm a guy that thinks fake breasts are not attractive. I do like them, big or small, but not altered. As an aside, I think your nose looks perfect. Oh, thank you. I don't like my nose, but anyway. While your podcast is comedic, I know you take it seriously. You may or may not realize the influence you have on people's opinions and the impact you have on women's girls' opinions of themselves. I think the reaction you had to large labia could lead some to resort to labiaplasty. How unfortunate that some people don't believe that they are beautiful and that we all have things big or small that, to paraphrase Elizabeth Lame, makes us who we are. Okay, here's the thing. I do not recall having any reaction to large labia, nor do I recall the large labia discussion. Gary, you do. What happened?
It happened. I don't
and
remember.
I had a reaction of disgust to the notion of large labia?
I don't remember it in that great of a detail, but this definitely happened, and when I read this email, I was not confused. I remember this conversation.
Well,
I don't remember.
I know that she had accidentally nicked her labia, and she said it was like the most painful thing ever.
And then you brought up a book about large labia. Somebody brought up a book that they had seen. I'm fairly sure it's you, about women who were posed in these weird.
Oh no, it was her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was like no, it's okay. I think they're squatting over the camera or something.
Yes.
Maybe that's what I had a reaction of disgust to. Because the notion of large labia, I have no reaction other than a very mature giggling. I think it was the squatting.
I think there was a comedic element to that part of the conversation. That could be what he's referring to.
I just want.
I mentioned that I'm phobic, and for those of you not in the studio, I'm actually hiding under the desk right now. This whole topic has thrown me. No, I don't have any comment. I don't have any real comment. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a nice, sensitive email he sent in.
It is.
It's a good point, I guess.
I just want to apologize to anyone who may have been offended by my reaction.
You're a
to
monster.
That. I guess I'm a cold, unnurturing monster, and babies see into my heart. Wouldn't that be awful if you thought you were a really good person and it turns out that you were a monster, though?
Well, I mean, they say everyone thinks they're a good person. I mean,
right. I know.
I just read a big book on the Nazis, and they all thought they were doing good, like, in their own twisted minds. Like, so that's true. That said, you're a good person.
The big book of
You're
Nazis?
a good person.
Thank you.
I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich in my car on CDs, which is actually 57 hours long. Like, I spent about 4.5 months with the Nazis. It was like the Reich was rising and falling in real time.
Yeah.
And that was too long to spend with Nazis. Like,
Who narrates it?
I don't know, some wonderful guy. Like, it's really well done, and it's a great piece of history. It's a great book, but it's a little too long to spend with those jerks. And it was a little too much rise, not enough fall. Like, I wanted more fall because that was the revenge portion of the book,
You want
when
the
they really
comeuppance?
got what was coming to them. And of course, they did get what was coming to them. But the emphasis on the book was definitely on the rise, and so I didn't get enough
Fall.
payback. Yeah.
So you need to read some kind of in-your-face Nazis book.
Well, I mean, it's certainly. I'm glad I read it, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend running out and doing it. At least not on CD, where it dominates every car ride you take for 4.5 months.
I took a class, speaking of college, called Nazism and Communism. And sometimes I think to myself, I can't believe I took that class and got a decent grade because I remember pretty much zero about it. Like, I feel like I should read The Rise and Fall or hear. Yeah, I don't have 57 hours to spare. Like that,
well, I mean,
I know, in broad strokes, but the actual
if it makes you feel any better,
like
like Hitler was a real dog lover. Dogs loved Hitler. Hitler loved dogs.
That doesn't make me feel better.
No, I'm not saying it makes you feel better, but I'm just saying, like, no, actually, I guess it wouldn't. But I guess my point is, just because a baby reacts poorly to you doesn't mean you're a bad person. Because Hitler, you would have seen Hitler with a dog had you known nothing else, and you would have been like, here's a funny guy in a mustache, and the dog just loves him. He must be a great guy. Like, a lot of women are like, if my dog likes the guy, he must be great.
Right.
Like, not a good criterion to use to judge
In
somebody.
this scenario, is Daniel Hitler?
Oh, because the baby liked him.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I guess you're right. So you're dating Hitler.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really revelatory night for you.
Yeah. No, I think the baby could have been Hitler.
Easy.
Future Hitler.
That's right.
And so the baby has to be done away with before he does something in the future.
That's right.
Bad.
That's right.
It's like a time travel.
I
movie or
know.
something.
It's like Looper, but I haven't seen that, so I don't know if it's actually like
It's really
Looper.
good. Looper's
really?
good, yeah.
Have you seen Argo?
No.
I want to
It's
see Argo.
Awesome.
Yeah, people are saying that. I'm very excited to see it.
There's something I need to say about dogs or Hitler or babies, and I don't remember what it was. Dogs, Hitler,
Like,
babies.
Hitler was a vegetarian.
Yeah.
It's another one. Like, anyway, I don't know why am I going on about
Oh,
Hitler?
because I
Just
was
because I read a
saying,
lot
wouldn't
about
it be
him.
awful if you
You're
thought
a
you're
good
a good
person,
person,
you're
actually you're a
bad-
horrible person? Yeah. But you know what it is? Here's the difference between me and Hitler. This is the first time I really nailed it down.
I hope there's more than one.
See, I think I'm a good person, and it really bothers me the idea that anything I've done might hurt someone or that I've caused someone pain. I feel like Hitler had more justification for, like, this might be harming someone, but it's for the greater good. I don't even look at stuff for the greater good, really. I'm just on an individual level hoping I don't hurt someone. But then I back up and I think, am I actually a jerk, though, because I'm just afraid of confrontation? Like, do I really not want to hurt someone, or do I not want them to be mad at me? It's both.
Well, I really like the idea of you just trying to be good on a person-to-person basis, because I think that's so much of life really is that. I think if you're just a good person on a person-to-person basis, you don't have to be a great person. Just be cool.
Right.
Just be nice on a person-to-person basis, and that makes you a good person, right? I mean, I
would hope. All right. Well, now here's where it gets weird, Ben.
Okay.
So people don't know this, but you and I briefly dated.
We did.
Way back when. Not way back, but I mean a long time ago. When I was
Long
living
time ago.
in New York.
What, 9 years ago, maybe, something like that?
Not that long ago. Was it? It
Well,
may have been.
It was 2000. Would have been
2007, maybe?
3 or 4. It was
No.
No.
I don't think so, unless you'd like it to be.
I don't remember exactly. It was many years ago, many moons ago.
No, because it was when I was working at Time Out New York, and I got hired at the end of 2004, and I know based on where I was sitting that it was 2007 or 2008.
Really, could have
Yeah.
been that late.
Why are you laughing, Gary?
I know based on where I was sitting. What does that even mean?
Well, because when I worked in the music section, I sat in one part of the awful office. Awfulous? No, the awful office.
Did you guys have a date at your desk?
No, but I...
Sorry.
I remember leaving work to go meet you at the Gramercy. And I remember the desk that I had been sitting at before, thus that would have put it around 2007, 2008. Maybe
Yeah, I
2006,
think you're absolutely
but-
right. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, though, yeah, so we
The
briefly
reason
dated.
we very briefly dated and then have been friends ever since.
Yes, but I worry that maybe I wasn't a decent person to you.
Oh my God, no.
Oh.
No, you were more
Tell
than
me
decent.
about that.
No, you were great. Yeah, no.
Oh, good.
You're a very, very cool person.
Oh,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. No, I don't. Are you seeking validation right now?
No, I'm trying to apologize.
Oh, please.
But here's the thing, though. This is something that comes up a lot for me, is that there are people where I think, I should really apologize to them and explain. And
Is
then
this
I
part
think,
of a 12-step thing? Are you going around apologizing to people in your life?
No. Although,
Isn't that part of it? I
Yeah,
don't know.
it
Yeah.
is. I think it's the 8th step, maybe, or 8th or 9th. No, it's not that, but it is it's just, part of my sort of daily dressing down of myself that I like to experience. No, I'll just think about an experience and I'll think that maybe I would have wanted more clarification if I had been the other person than I gave the person or whatever. I'll just feel like I probably should have explained that better. Or I should apologize to them. And then I'll think, I should write them an email. And then I think, wait, maybe I already did. And then I think, but if I already did, I wouldn't be wondering about it. So as a rule, every time I have that thought where I think it's like either I never apologize or I apologize 5 times. So I was convinced that I must not have. But then all of a sudden I remembered today, wait a minute, I think I did send you an apology
An
email.
apologetic
Yes.
email?
Because I remember, I said that I imagined that you were probably thinking I flew across the country for this bitch or something, and then you wrote back and you're like, well, pretty much, but not the bitch part.
Did I actually?
Yeah.
You've dug up this email.
No,
You've got it. You're about to read it.
I don't. Today I almost went back, but then I have trouble reading old emails. It makes me feel yucky.
I'm not even sure. Does I don't know. I'm just asking because I don't know. I haven't looked how far emails go back. Do they go that far back? Like,
I
would
think they do.
Gmail
I
keep
think
that?
so.
I know
Gmail
on your
goes
computer
all the way back.
it does go all the way back.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't recall what your this particular exchange.
Oh, maybe I imagined. No, I don't think
no,
I
I
imagined
mean I'm sure
it.
you didn't.
Yeah,
But I don't recall it. But I certainly don't recall you needing to apologize for anything.
Okay.
No, not in the least.
Oh, great.
Yeah, maybe it was I who needed to apologize.
No, I don't. No. You didn't need to apologize.
But I do think we can. Look, I think there are a lot more good people in this world who are kind of worrying. I wonder if than there are bad people who are oblivious to the harm they caused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you are. I think we're both good people who are not. Who are probably overthinking things in life,
Yes.
as opposed to the bad people who
don't
think of anything.
They
Yeah.
underthink.
Just the fact that you're thinking about these things in general,
Right.
I think,
Yeah. I
means
think
you have
I
a good,
just-
amount of you've got a good guilt gene and a good, in a good way, meaning
Right.
like when you do bad things, you feel guilty and and you're empathetic, you think of other people's feelings and things. So I think that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think with us, I just felt like, you were living here, I was living in New York. You came all the way to New York, and I just feel like I probably owed you more of a frank maybe I worried that I'd led you on, or I just wasn't really talking about like what I was feeling or what was going on. Yeah, I think I worried that I'd led you on, maybe. I don't know. And I also think, I don't know that I ever explained this, but I had at that time just stopped drinking.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. And I actually was going to meetings. It's funny that you say the step
so I
thing.
joked about the AA thing, and
I was, yeah,
there was
but
an element of truth in
there
that.
was an element of truth in that, and
foot in mouth. I feel horrible over here.
No, please
I'm
don't.
a monster.
This is what Hitler did.
This is
what
way
Hitler
worse
did.
than a baby reacting poorly to me. I made an AA joke on it.
No, it's totally fine. Please, it is. No, please don't feel weird about that at all. I can tell from your face that now you're feeling weird.
No, I just feel like I shouldn't.
Don't.
It's because it's not. It's never a laughing matter. The apology step actually is part. I was joking about it just in the context of you saying about talking about this, but
I wasn't doing it as a step.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it
That
really
makes
were
my
that,
cruel and sensitive joke feel so much better.
well, if you would like, the shoe can be on the other foot. I used to think fucktarded was a very funny word, and you said that you're not at all a fan of people using tard as a joke because
I don't love that. Yeah, I never say that word.
don't you volunteer at a camp for?
No. I mean, I have volunteered at a camp before, but it wasn't for people with. But I have worked for a little bit. I just volunteered a tiny little bit at a charity for people with mental disabilities or whatever, or developmental disabilities. But I here when it comes to humor, I don't tend to love humor that comes at the expense of someone who got stricken with something that could have just as easily stricken me or a friend and stuff. And I have friends who have children who are developmentally disabled over the years, and I've had friends who had brothers, and to see how courageous they are and how those people are, and it's the there but for the grace of God go I kind of thing. I don't love jokes about AIDS. I don't love jokes about cancer, and I never find them that funny. It's like a show like Family Guy, which I love. And it's not like I hold it against them, but they will make jokes about cancer and AIDS and being retarded and things like. And it's always at that moment of the moment of the show. I don't get offended and angry as much as I do. I just don't find it funny, and I just feel like I wish they'd taken that 10 seconds and made a joke that doesn't come at the expense of someone who's struggling. So I guess in a way, my AA joke, now that I think about it, would fit into that category, which makes me feel bad, because clearly alcoholism is a terrible thing that is not a choice. It's visited upon you. You get an addictive personality, and then alcohol mixes into it, and you've got a problem. But general, I just don't love humor. I love humor at the expense of others if those people are being jackasses, if by choice they're being like they need to be made fun of. But I don't love humor that makes fun of people who had bad things visited upon them.
So see, I stuck my foot in my mouth with my fucktarded.
Did people get on
love
your
of the word.
case for that then? Did people?
Well, no, just you.
Oh, I did. Sorry. Did I?
No one got on my. No, that's what I'm saying. No one got on my case.
Did I read you the riot? When was that? I don't
No,
remember
it was the first night we met. Actually.
Oh my God.
You did not read me the riot act, but in the same way that you feel now with the feeling like you put your foot in your mouth. At that time, I think I felt like I put my foot in my mouth. But so anyway, the weird thing with me though is that I still am very unclear about. Was I an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? I don't like that label, or it's not just a label. Like that whole thing never quite fit. Basically, but I did feel like I was drinking too much. Things were getting out of control. But in a way that there's plenty of other people who are carrying on with that lifestyle in New York that I enjoyed for a period of time, but for me it was just I was filled with self-loathing and it wasn't working for me, and I kept saying I would like to go out tonight and not drink, and then I would drink, and then I was making really poor choices relationship-wise, and so there was all this stuff going on. So I went to a few meetings just to see what it was about. And
is there a religious component to AA? There is there not?
Was it
originally a Christian organization? I can't remember. I'm asking because I don't know.
Actually, they do use the word.
Yes,
no, it was not originally. No, they use the word God or higher power, but it can be anything to you. Like the religion part is sort of it's almost a semantic thing, I would say. But so anyway, I was just like I I would like to see how other people deal with curbing compulsive behavior, essentially. I didn't put it in those sort of robotic terms at the time, but it helped me quite a bit. But so anyway, that had just happened, but I never did the steps. But apparently I do them on my own. But that had just happened like right when I met you. And it was the first time, probably ever, that I was hanging out with someone in a date setting and not drinking. So I was so self-conscious. Like all the things that drinking had suppressed, the self-consciousness, the just everything.
Inhibitions,
yes, everything was suddenly like my nerve endings were so everything was new to me, and it was just weird and overwhelming and difficult. And I remember at one point sitting down near you and thinking, this would be the time that if I were drinking, I'd be like my body language would be so different. It would be so much more inviting and come hithery.
Right.
Versus now that I'm like stone cold. Yeah, come hithery. Stone cold sober. I'm like I think my arms are crossed and my legs. I'm very guarded.
Well, I don't drink much. I drink, but not much. So I've been in a lot of social situations over the course of my life, and this is not just dating, but it's cocktail parties or whatever, where I'm anxious and I'm a little phobic and a little anxious and just not feeling great. And I think that alcohol would take the edge off that. I really do. I mean, someone used to joke that, if it weren't for alcohol, that the species would die out because no one would ever get laid without the alcohol because no one would be able to, just kind of get right over the inhibitions that they have. I do think that alcohol can be a crutch a little bit. I mean, it certainly can, or at least can. But it can also can be harmless too, and just a little something to just take the edge off of that. The person who's you're judging yourself or you're anxious or whatever. So I think responsibly, if used responsibly, it's fine to do those things, and that's not a bad thing at all. Anyway, who knows?
Yeah. I think I just felt like, and I knew that you didn't drink much or at all, and I just felt like this. I don't know why I didn't just tell you though. I felt like this, well, this is too harsh, but like this, out of control, washed up party girl who was all of a sudden with someone who was much more who I truly wished that I
it's funny.
The true me was that other person.
If it means anything, you didn't come across that way at all. I mean, I think again, when you're in your own head, you're feeling a lot of things where you're just perceiving them. I mean, I think part of what alcohol does is make you a little less self-focused. To the point where you're not judging yourself and not wondering every little moment. And then maybe, when you've had it for a long time, then suddenly in its absence, all that stuff just comes to the fore even more.
I never dated without it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. When I say I don't drink much or often, basically I've never been drunk. I've never thrown up. I've never had a hangover. Generally, when I drink, 2 drinks is my limit, and that never gets me more than just somewhat buzzed and a little sleepy. I get a little sleepy, so but that's enough though to make me a little more at ease for sure.
Have you ever been tempted to keep going with it?
No, I have. I just have this kind of self-limiting. If you've ever ridden a Segway scooter, have you ever ridden a Segway scooter? It's a very strange analogy, but when you ride a Segway scooter, they go only 12 miles an hour. And you can kind of lean forward on it and try to go faster and faster and faster. And when it starts to hit the 12-mile-an-hour limit, it just gently kind of pushes you backwards and it slows itself down. It's like you just can't – you can just kind of feel it ease back. And that is built into my personality. It's like when I start to feel myself getting a little too fast, a little out of control, almost without even wanting to do it or needing to do it, my body just says, you know what, let's dial it back. No, let's not have that next sip. Let's not push it. Now, some people reach that same 12-mile-an-hour limit, and it's like now pedal to the floor. It's like they start to get less inhibited and want more to drink at that stage. And for some reason, I got either blessed or whatever, something with that gene that says almost automatically bring it back down. And so that's why I kind of get to that 2-drink limit. I start to get lightheaded, start to get sleepy, start to get a little out of control, silly. and I just back it right off. It's really weird.
Do you have curiosity about what it would feel like to throw up?
I know what it's like to throw up,
Yeah.
so no curiosity there. Hangovers, I know what it's like to have a bad headache, so no curiosity there. The only drug, I've never smoked pot. I'm really a square. But the only drug I ever had that I just fell in love with and was really addicted to within about 3 days was demerol, and was in the hospital after I had appendicitis. And my God, I love demerol. Like, I literally didn't want to leave the hospital.
Is demerol hospital heroin?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a really strong
Never have I
painkiller.
felt better. Yeah. I mean, it was administered. This was back in the late 80s. I got appendicitis. They had to administer the demerol with a syringe to your butt. So it was literally a shot in the
Wow.
ass. And after 3 days, I almost had needle craving. I wanted that needle to go into my butt. It's as terrible as that sounds. Because I was so desperate for that feeling. And I
What
was
did it make
already
you feel?
feeling bad.
Yeah.
It made me feel like when I watch Trainspotting, I think heroin must make people feel. It made me full of warmth and joy and carefreeness and just the thought that nothing was wrong in the world. It was so good and so
Wow.
relaxing.
Such a
and
psychological.
there was not one care or problem I had in the world. And that's why when it came time to leave the hospital, I remember very vividly, it was there was this question of, am I staying for the 5th day or do I go home on the 4th day? Appendicitis used to be a bigger deal than it is now because they didn't have the arthroscopic thing. And I remember thinking, I remember them asking, or it being an open question, and me thinking, "Oh God, I hope I can stay one more day." I really thought that, and
Right.
and I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go back to my life. I just wanted to lie in bed and have this stuff injected into me. And it gave me this amazing window into addiction, an understanding of, well, now I understand why people who are addicted to cocaine have a tough time getting over it, or heroin, or the more serious things, and it's because, or even alcohol. It's because when you feel that good, nothing compares. Nothing in my life, really, except for semester at sea, I guess. But nothing really ever compared to that demerol. Even sex, in a way, because sex is it goes and then it's fleeting, then it's over. But that demerol was so awesome. I would have traded anything for it at that moment.
And the
In
thing,
4 days. 4 days.
The thing about a substance is that you can control it. I think there's that
You
thing
think
too.
you can.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Right.
let me rephrase. You think you can.
Right.
But meaning, unlike the other, natural, euphoric things you might experience in life.
Life is either giving it to you or it's not.
Yeah,
You're not really
this
in
is
control.
something that you can have a little bag of it or a little whatever of it, and you can dose yourself as you want.
Right.
And for someone who has an addictive personality and is a control freak, that is
Yeah, I mean, it's very tempting.
Yeah.
Because you're not only able to control it, but then you're able to receive an immediate reward for
Yeah.
it. And then when you feel bad, I mean, ultimately, I think what drugs do too is they help you escape the crap of your life. I mean, it's escapism. I mean, just like going to the movies is, or playing a video game, or traveling sometime, whatever. It's just an escape from the crap of your normal life, and it's almost instantaneous. And I just think how weird to think of this. I was 5'11", 119 pounds at the time. I had appendicitis. I was the skinniest kid in high school who then got appendicitis and lost another 10 pounds.
Wow.
I'm lying in this hospital bed. I literally must have looked like I was dying. And the thought that I didn't want to leave is very terrifying in retrospect.
So what happened when you left, though? Did you
Totally
have,
fine.
You
Totally
didn't have
fine. I
withdrawal
didn't have
or
withdrawal. I
anything?
think it was not that long into it. I mean, I had a day or two of feeling bad, but
Right.
it wasn't crazy. And my parents actually, they said, well, we can give you these tablets of demerol to go home with. And my parents basically hid that kind of from me. They were like,
Oh, they saw what was happening.
They basically were like, yeah, we're not going to, once you get home, you're not going to be on anything. And that's what they did. And I think that was smart.
Yeah.
So there was really no chance. Because a lot of people really do get addicted to painkillers, coming off situations where they're in genuine pain and they really need them. And then transitioning back to a life where you don't use them can be hard. Anyway, but I also remember it messed with my memory like crazy. My parents had brought me comic books. I like comic books. And so I was sitting in this hospital bed reading comic books, and then they would give me the demerol, and I would have this, it'd be awesome. And then an hour later, I would take a nap, and I'd wake up, and I'd be like, hey, look, comic books. And and I'd read the same comic books again, and I'd be like, it seems Iron Man seems to be somewhat familiar to me. He might have gone through this adventure before. He might have vanquished this villain once in the past. And then I would put the comic book down, and they'd give me the demerol, and I'd be go out, and then I'd be wake up, and I'd be hey, comic books! I was living Groundhog Day in a way. That was
Right.
how powerful that drug was. It was messing even with my memory of what I'd experienced. So. And I wish I could do it. I literally wish to this day I could just get some demerol and do it. I'm smart enough not to, but there's something very seductive about, just give me some.
Right. Would you ever do heroin?
No. No, they're just things I'm not willing to take that chance. Just the idea that it could destroy the pleasure centers of your brain forever so that you're never as happy as when, you had your heroin. Like, I think that's frightening.
Right. Do you or don't have an addictive personality?
I do with some, like video games. I got really into video games, super into video games. Beach volleyball. I tend to get addicted to something when it's competitive and I'm trying to get better.
I don't
And
know
that's
if
a
one can be
weird-
addicted to beach volleyball.
I was playing 6 days a week for like 4 hours a day.
You at the beach?
4 hours a day at the beach, nowhere near the water. But yeah, I was playing like I would screenwrite during the day, and then at about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'd go out and play beach volleyball until dark, like for hours and hours. And I was trying to get better, and I just loved it, and it's all I wanted to do. Like I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I just wanted to play beach volleyball all day long. And I do think in a weird way it was like an addiction. I mean, clearly a very harmless addiction as far as that goes. And video games was real. I had to cut video games out of my life for like a decade because I didn't have to, but I did because I was just playing it too much late at night, like just too many stupid video games. And subsequently, I've gone back and played some video games, but it's in a much more I'm much more controlled about it now, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, I do think you can get addicted to non-physiological
I
drugs.
think so.
Sure.
I think so. I think anything
You
that
think about
you're
sex
using.
addiction they talk about, or like anything that you're using it to escape.
Yeah.
Scrapbooking. Some people get addicted to scrapbooking.
You could probably get addicted to couponing.
Couponing.
Yeah.
You say coupon or coupon?
I say.
I think you said coupon.
What did I say? I said coupon.
I think you said coupon. I say coupon.
I say I say coupon, which is correct.
Do you say Groupon or Groupon?
I say Groupon. Wait, do you say culinary or culinary?
Definitely culinary. I've never heard culinary, in
I
fact.
think that I might say that sometimes, and I think it's wrong. Do you? You know what I realized I say wrong?
I know you're a big lover of words, and I am too,
am.
and it's just interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
I say finance,
Yeah,
but
finance, yeah, me
or
too.
financial.
Instead of
But
financial.
I think it's financial.
Finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I studied
Finance.
finance. It's financial, yeah.
And I I auditioned for some comedy thing a long time ago, and I had to say financial or financial. Financial is how I say it. But I decided the character would say financial. That was the choice I made. And it was only after that I thought, there's no way they're going to realize that was anything other than just the way I say it. It's like such a subtle, stupid thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's more correct anyway, that it's like, it's not going to be like, oh, look, she's really transformed herself. She said financial.
She would have said financial had she been herself.
Yeah.
She's an excellent actor.
Wait, what's your favorite word? I'm sure
My
we would have
favorite
gone over
word
this.
is Monongahela,
We didn't go over this.
which is a river in Pittsburgh. I love Native American words more than any other words. I think they're the most beautiful words that exist. Words like Wichita and Arapaho.
Well, and these are names.
Cuyahoga.
Some of these
stuff
were
like,
names.
Yeah, exactly. They're names. I'm just
In
words
Zombieland, right?
from Zombieland, Wichita. Yeah, I was the lead character. I always thought it'd be cool to name a daughter Wichita. I just love the sound of Native American language. That's just so cool. There are so many that are so cool, like Iroquois. Just Sioux, and just words that are just really, really seductive and great. I love them.
Now, is part of the reason you like Sioux because it's S-I-O-U?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you're right. Sioux probably doesn't count.
No. It
How
can
about
still count.
Lakota?
Lakota's
The
good.
Lakota Sioux, the Lakota or Dakota. Like, those are just such a powerful, beautiful sounding word. I think they're probably the most beautiful languages, very underrated in that. French, it's so beautiful. But I would assume if you listen to a Navajo or a Hopi or just anyone from any of the Native American tribes speak at length, it would just be gorgeous to listen to.
This feels like the perfect transition for Just Me or Everyone, where people send in things they do or think, and they think, is it just me or everyone?
Let's do it.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right, James Minor 3. After friending on Facebook, I do an intense survey of my page and pictures and tweak to give a tailored view. Example, remove bad TV show likes. I don't know if I actually tweak it, but I do that. I'm not on Facebook that much, but when I
Nor
do,
am I.
yeah, like if I add someone or if they add me, then all of a sudden I will think, oh, I better see what exactly they're looking at. So then I'll go look at it, and then I think I should edit it, and then I get overwhelmed and I don't. So it's kind of it in everyone.
I'm sorry, James Minor 3. I never do that. You're weird.
Gary, do you?
No, I don't do that.
Do you guys even use Facebook?
Yeah, but mostly I do to view other
Yeah,
people.
it's a consumption tool for me as well.
Right. All right.
Yeah. And my joke on Facebook, not my joke, my belief is that no one improves upon closer inspection. That's a terrible thing to say, but
Wait, no human being does?
no human being on Facebook said basically people don't improve the more you find out about them.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. They just. I don't love Facebook for that reason, but
Do you feel like that's
but
the
I'm very
case in
cynical
real
in that
life,
regard.
though? Because Adam, I think his phrase is more mystery, less history. That's like that was a love line thing,
Oh,
like a
that's a
tip
cool-
for guys on dates and things.
cool idea, yeah.
Because I feel like
I think too much mystery is probably frightening if you just
Yeah.
who is this person?
right,
Yeah.
this cipher. Because I am very much here I am. Let me show you everything that's wrong with me.
And I don't mean photos and stuff like that. I mean more just the status updates. They just
Oh,
tend to
right.
be annoying or whatever. They just tend to be like, ugh, I didn't really need to know that, or I didn't need to, hear you brag about that. Whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
anyway,
All right, DV Mike W. When autocorrect makes it I instead of I'm, I reread it and think I sound, there's that word you don't like, retarded. Example, I a big fan of your show. I haven't noticed autocorrect doing that one. Does autocorrect turn I'm into I often?
I've never had it do that. I'm never had it do that.
Me am neither. Okay. Big TD79. I pretend to use the force when an automatic door opens. I don't do that, but I want to do that.
Oh,
from
I know.
now
I
on.
want to do it too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
I like that idea. Great one.
Thomas Larton. After sex, I have no idea where I put my clothes. I pretty much always, after changing, I have no idea where I put my clothes, and then I find them in a pile. No sex involved.
Yeah, I think probably if leading up to it, it's awesome and the clothes are flying off, then that's a good thing. You don't have any idea where you put them. If you're putting them into a neat pile, maybe there's something wrong.
Right. Hang on. I need to hang this up. That's what I say. All right. I need to talk about something involving sex. It's the whole, and I think it's come up on this show before. The reason that I am not a big, and now I'm revealing something about Daniel as well. The reason I'm not let's shower together and all that and have that be something intimate is because I would have to get out and blow dry my hair. And there'd be a wait. You guys have no reaction to this. Have you ever hooked up with a girl in the shower and then had to wait while she blew dry her hair?
No.
All right. Okay. Anyway. Say it, Gary. So to my listeners
He's
who
shaking
also
his head. Gary's shaking his head,
have
so that's a no.
tresses that they care about, I would just like to ask, what do you do with the frizzy situation? Okay. Kelly tweets you, Halloween is quickly approaching. Candy. Noticing that I eat the chocolate off of the top and sides of the Kit Kats first. I don't do
How
that.
does one do that? How do you
You'd end
lick
up
it
with-
off?
I think you'd
You
like sort
nibble
of
it off?
Yeah, I think it'd be a nibble. It'd be sort of like a corn action. This is what I do with a Kit Kat. I think the first couple bites would be normal, and then I would split it in half.
Yeah, I guess so. A Kit Kat doesn't really lend itself to creative eating the way, say, an Oreo would or something.
How do you eat an Oreo?
Well, I don't, but you can break it apart
Right.
and lick the cream out of the middle, and then, or whatever. But a Kit Kat's kind of it's just a little brick, a long little 2x4 of chocolate. Like it's hard to do too much with it. Interesting. But
Have you ever tried to eat the shell off of an M&M or a Skittle?
No.
Rhett, you have not lived. All right. Bryant Rich, another food one. I'm excited to eat my lovingly crafted salad bar salad until I see someone else's. Suddenly my choices seem wildly inferior. I can relate because I'm very bad with decisions, but usually I just look at someone else's salad bar salad and I think, a whole different life went into that salad. So many different decisions. Like, I would not have done that with the whatever
Totally,
it is.
totally. And I think it should reinforce the salad that you got as being better.
Right.
Because they throw all those things on there that are
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Like that dressing I never would have gotten. There's a lot
Right.
of sunflower seeds. I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Onions. What?
What? Yeah, exactly. Who would do that?
Right. And
I agree.
those crispy Asian noodles on your salad. I wouldn't have, but maybe there's oftentimes a salad bar will have bottles of crunchy things to pour on your salad, and I usually don't avail myself of those.
Well, this guy should not have salad envy. That's crazy. Bryant Rich, you're crazy. You're as crazy as James Miner was weird.
All right. J-Rot 92. Sometimes before starting a menial task, I'll give myself a little cheerleader pump on. Yeah. Ready? Okay. It's fun. I like that. I'm trying to think
Pretty sure that says cheerleader pump up.
Oh!
Yeah.
That makes
just
so
pumping
much
himself
more
up. Yeah. What did you say?
Pump on.
Pump on.
That doesn't even look like on. Thank you, Gary.
I think the
can't
best thing to
read.
do when doing menial tasks is to talk on the phone at the same time. I have a phone,
That's
a cordless
smart.
phone with a little headset. I put it on, and I do laundry or make the bed, and then you forget all about the menial task because you don't really need your brain for that anyway.
Who do you talk to though?
Anyone. Like, you can have a full-on conversation while doing something menial. That's the
Yeah.
whole idea of menial. Like, I don't need to think to make the bed. In other words, that's a muscle memory thing. So I can have
Right.
a full-on conversation, not have it affect the conversation. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm doing menial tasks.
Talk on the phone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listen to podcasts while doing menial
Yeah,
tasks.
another great example because
Yeah.
you're like books on tape or something.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
I'm very phone averse. I'm also menial task averse, but more phone averse. But the times that I have talked on the phone while doing something like driving, it actually makes it go by much faster.
For sure.
Okay. By B.V. Vargas. Occasionally have a negative thought about something embarrassing I did pop into my head for no reason, like mind Tourette's. Every minute of every day, my friend. Yes.
Oh my God! That you said mind Tourette's. I thought that it says mind turrets on the
Yeah.
the tweet. I was like, mind turret. What's a mind turret?
That's something that you look out of and you see a right near the cerebellum. I think he means mind Tourette's. And oh yes, I can't, like, all of a sudden something that I feel weird about from so long ago that I hadn't thought about will pop into my head, and I'll think, ugh.
Oh yeah, that
I
happens
pretty much
a lot.
my whole life is looking at things from the past and cringing.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's good actually,
That's
because
unfortunate,
I was
but-
recently looking for some old photos, and pretty much every stage of my life I felt weird about when I looked at it, and I thought I should be more accepting of who I used to be and who I am, but evidently no.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But do you have this? Do you feel
Yeah,
weird?
absolutely. Yeah. Probably not as intensely as it sounds like you do, but yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Gary?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not constantly at all, but yeah, definitely.
When you're falling asleep, do you review the day and feel weird about things that happened? That's one of my prime times to feel
Oh,
uncomfortable.
really? No. Mm-mm.
No.
No, I can't.
I've usually shut it down at that point.
What do you think about as you fall asleep?
I really try not to. I'm pretty good at once I climb into bed, that's the end of the thinking.
Really?
Yeah, until the next morning. Then I think like crazy. If I wake up early, then I can't turn it off. But at night, I'm good at that. I don't know why.
My thoughts first thing in the morning are usually very repetitive but nonsensical. Like it's not like I'm not plagued by memories or like real things first thing in the morning.
I start to solve the day's problems. What's
Really?
the upcoming day's problems? I'm starting to write. I'm starting to figure out what needs to happen. That's a problem.
Right when you wake up?
Yeah, it can happen. And then it's tough to get back to sleep once that activates.
Yeah.
But no, I don't go over the day and beat myself up for what happened usually.
Smart. Gary?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I don't get into bed until everything's done, and then I just turn it off. But the second I wake up in the morning, in fact, I've had to train myself. If I look at my phone and I see an email, it's over. Like, I'm up.
Oh, yeah.
And I am in that email,
Yes.
and then I'm in all other 14 that are waiting for me, and there's just no chance of my going back to sleep. So if the alarm goes off and I don't have work that day and I know I want to sleep in an extra half hour, I just have to train myself to not look at the phone and hit snooze and go back to bed, because once I start reading, it's over.
Yeah, I've had that. I read my phone a lot in the middle of the night or early in the morning. I'll get an email, like a work-related email, and I'll just be lying in bed like, even if it's not deserved, or even if it is. But yeah, in fact, what I had to break myself of the habit of was responding while still in bed, because I'm
Oh
probably
my
not
God! Then
thinking
you're really
clearly.
into it. Well, you're
really
not
into it
thinking
and not
clearly.
thinking clearly.
You might write the wrong thing.
Yeah. Garzali, annoyed in anticipation of people wearing the I voted stickers in November.
I have no problem with the I voted stickers. In fact, I plan to vote by mail this year, and I realized I'm not going to get my I
Same
voted
exact
sticker.
thing happened to me.
And then you got bombed a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
I got it in the mail and I was like, well, well, it wasn't so much bummed because I kind of understand what this guy's saying, and there are people who I see not
Look at me.
not the lion's share, but there are people
I'm
you
a better
see
citizen than you.
right who you just think you're wearing that to feel proud of yourself, and fuck you. But I also don't want to be the guy not wearing it who people are judging me. Well, couldn't be bothered to vote today.
Right.
You know, once every 2 years, you couldn't be bothered. Like, no, I voted, but
Well, I think
did
it's
it by
good because
mail.
I think
You
it's
should make
just
your own.
it's part of the it's part of the civic pride of and the communal feeling of, hey, we all voted. Hey, I voted. Did you vote? Yay! You know, it's like it's just
Yeah.
let's get into it together. I think that's kind of cool.
Would you wear an I donated blood today sticker?
No.
Do they even have those? I feel like they do.
I think it's a gauze ball and a piece of tape.
Yeah, that's a good point. But no, then I'd start to think that was bragging a little bit. maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Trying to think of any other stickers that I would or wouldn't wear.
Name tags? Are you into the name tag thing?
No,
when you go to a-
I'm pretty much never into the name tag
Boy,
thing.
I hate the name tag thing.
Really? And I always feel like a stick in the mud when I won't slap the sticker on my whatever, but I'm always afraid it'll hurt the fabric and I'll look like an asshole.
Got it. You're worried about the shirt.
I recently
Or
got
the
into
blouse.
it. Well, not got into it, but got chastised by a volunteer at a hospital because I did not immediately put the name tag she gave me on. And then when I told her, I'll put it on. I was walking away, and I'll put it on. And she's like, no, turn around and put it on right now.
Wow.
and I didn't want to fight with her, so I just did it. But
Is it just to prove that you have clearance in the hospital? Is that what it is?
yeah, like I was going to visit. Well, this might date this, but I was going to visit Mike Dawson, and I went up to this very nice old lady who was volunteering. I got all the, gave her his name, everything. So she gave me a little sticker that said guest floor 5, but it didn't say my name or the room number or anything else. It just said guest floor 5. And I thought, well, that's not important. So I was just going to walk away and, hold it with me. If anyone asked, I'd show them.
She busted you.
No, she was insistent.
Wouldn't the world be better if we all just wore them all the time? If we just had to by law?
Yes.
Because then we would never forget people's
Right.
names, and
I
it'd just
hate
be
that
so great.
because I have that social anxiety thing of forgetting the name of someone that I know quite well. Like it'll just in a flash be gone, and I'll be like, ugh.
Oh yeah, that's
I
a
think it's
scary
scary.
thought.
Speaking of name tags, at my sister's wedding, she had a officious wedding planner, but she was good, but she was just had her hands in everything. So there, we got to the wherever it is that you pick up your name tag, and she said, like whatever table it is, I forget if it was before the reception or before this or that, or there's name tags, and she said, just write your relation to the bride or the groom. Like for you, write sister to Laura. So I wasn't really thinking, so I just went, okay, and I wrote sister to Laura, which is not the grammar that I would have chosen.
Sister to Laura, yeah. Sister of Laura.
It would probably be
Laura's
the direction.
sister?
Yes, any of those, either of those would have been more me than sister to Laura. So I walked around with a name tag on and said, Allison, sister to Laura.
It's a little formal.
It's right. It's a little stilted. And every time I look at the name tag, I think, ugh. Anyway.
So there are pictures now of you in the name tag, or you mean you still look at the name tag?
I actually kept the name tag.
Okay.
And I have it on a bulletin board at my at my parents' house every time I see it.
And yet it makes
But-
you cringe and you don't like it. Why don't you get it off? Why don't you just throw it away?
There's so many things that are under that category because it's sentimental, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. And also, my penmanship is very messy on the name tag. In general, I have pretty illegible handwriting at this point. But when I look at it, I'm haunted by that thing that I think about sometimes, which is, what if I were on Jeopardy and I wrote my name in a really messy way? I don't think anyone else is concerned about this, but I am. Because you only have, you have one chance,
You
or
have one
maybe
chance.
multiple.
And that stylus was probably not that easy to use.
I know.
Yeah, that would be embarrassing.
Right. I'm going to talk to Ken Jennings about that. All right. Well, I believe we solved all the Just Me or Everyone's.
Rhett Reese, thank you so much for doing this show.
Oh, it's been great to
This
be
has
here.
been delightful. Do you
Thank
have any?
you so much.
Okay, here's the question that people are going to want me to have asked you. Do you have
Right.
any advice for people who are starting out?
I'll give the piece of advice that I most often give at the end of my class or any lecture on screenwriting, which is if you've seen Terminator 2, there is a character called the T-1000. The T-1000 is a Terminator made of liquid metal, and throughout the movie he just gets bashed and smashed into all these different shapes, and he keeps reforming. Near the end of the movie, he gets frozen and shattered into 1,000 pieces on the ground. And then slowly the room warms up because of where they are, and the pieces kind of melt, and then they slowly coalesce back into the T-1000. And I think that's a great metaphor for what you need to be as a screenwriter in Hollywood if you intend to succeed. The town is a brutal town. It'll beat you up. It will shatter you into 1,000 pieces psychologically and spiritually so many times, and you have to always have those pieces kind of coalesce, reform, and then you have to come at it with renewed effort. You have to be a relentless machine where John Connor is your success, basically. It's like where you have to treat success like John Connor. You have to come at it as emotionless as you can and just attack. You got to be the T-1000. And I tell people that because if you aren't, if you're weaker than that, the mounting failures that will come at you will probably dissuade you, and you'll end up quitting, and it'll be a sad ending. So anyway, that's the advice I usually give. And then just write like a maniac, write a lot, because quantity ultimately is what as long as you have talent, it's like not everybody does, but if you have it, then it's the quantity that will get you there. My 7th script is the one that got me noticed. So it took me 7 features before I finally got noticed. And you have to have that kind of persistence in order to make it.
All right. And if people want to find you, is there a website, or should they follow you on Twitter?
Twitter.
Okay.
Twitter. It's the ampersand Rhett Reese. It's just my name. Yeah, and that's the best place to find me and ask me questions or whatever. On Facebook, I won't friend you if I don't know you, so that's probably not the best time,
Right.
best place to come. Twitter's easy to do that, and I get back to most, if not probably not all people, but most people. I will respond to you somehow. So,
Right.
yeah.
All right. Zombieland 2, that's happening?
Zombieland 2 probably not going to happen. It could still happen, but I think IMDb is a little misleading on that point. IMDb kind of acts like or thinks that it's going into production, which is not the case. We've written a Zombieland television pilot that in theory could happen sooner than Zombieland 2,
cool.
the movie, so that could happen. G.I. Joe next March. My novel's called Anxiety. It's on Amazon. Better to search by my name than the title, because there are a million books with the title of Anxiety or with it in the title. So search for my name if you want that one. And thank you so much for having me. It's really been fun.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter at Alison Rosen. You can follow the show's Twitter feed at ARIYNBF. Follow Gary at GPatrickSmith. You can email the show ARIYNBF at adamcarolla.com. And if you are going to buy something on Amazon, which you are because they have everything, then click through the banner on my website, AlisonRosen.com, and that helps out the show. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Thank you for choosing the Alison Rosen Show. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. That's right. That's right. Those good times don't seem to end. That's right. That's right. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now it's time to go. Hope to see you next time for the Alison Rosen Show.
Digital.